Hello, welcome back to Dumb Thumbs FPV. So today's video is part 2. This is the mod video here for the Emax Freestyle frame. If you haven't seen part 1, go back and watch part 1. You'll get some maybe you might get some information out of that as well, especially if you don't own the thing yet. So today's video is to cover everything I've done. So the camera I chose was the Runcam Racer Nano. The VTX I chose was the TBS 32, I don't know, the Unify little 32. And then the antenna I chose was this one right here. And the props I chose were the little HQ props, wherever the heck, I think I already put them in my bag. And then I also put a beeper on it as well. Okay, so that's what I've done to this thing. So let's get started with the camera. Now this video is very lengthy, guys, so there's going to be an index down below. You can just jump to the stuff you're interested in, skip over the stuff you're not. So let's get down to the camera. So what I wanted to do with this camera is I wanted to make sure that the camera was not hanging out in front here. Okay. And I knew the camera was 14 millimeters by 14 millimeters. And I knew it was the stock camera was also 14 millimeters in height. Thank you, Nick Burns. So I knew the camera was going to work, but I didn't want the camera out front. So I re-drilled the two holes for the standoffs 4 millimeters back and still left a gap of 1 millimeter between the, between the ESC and the FC main board. So there's still a little bit of a gap there. I took the motor leads, I took them off of the ESC board and I welded them the opposite direction. So the leads typically stick out of the front here. I welded them the other direction. So I made sure that they were going to touch my new camera mount. And what I did to make what I did is I drilled the bottom plate, got the holes that I wanted to, and drilled them out. And then I sandwiched the top plate and the bottom plate together using the stock bolt holes. And then I drilled them out so they'd match. You guys, when you're drilling carbon fiber, just keep your drill around 800 to 1,000 RPMs. Otherwise, you're just going to dull up your drill bit. Then I went down to Ace Hardware and I got some copper tubing. This is K&S copper tubing. You can get it at hobby shops as well. The inside diameter is pretty much about the same as the stock screws. So I could use the stock screws as a tap in top and bottom on the new posts. The new posts, the brass tubing I cut to 15 millimeters as opposed to 14, which is the stock plastic standoffs. And the reason I did that is so there's a little bit of extra freedom for the camera to go up and down. As you can see, I can get the camera at a pretty aggressive angle, about 45-degree angle, and back down to just 0 degrees, whatever I want to do here. So I also bought a sheet of copper plate that's pretty thin. I mean, it's durable enough for a camera that's only a couple of grams thick, but you can cut it with shears. Okay, I cut some squares, 15 millimeter by 15 millimeter. I used a fat bit on my soldering station, which is just an 898D plus. I got off eBay for 56 bucks like 3 years ago, and it also comes with a temperature controlled heat gun, so that's really nice too when you're doing shrink tubing. So I ran a little bead using this Kester. I always use Kester. I'm an electrician, so I rewind electric motors from 10 horse to 450 horse. This is what we use. This is what us professionals use. This is a 66 by 44. And if you buy it this big off of Amazon, it's going to last you a lifetime. You can probably pass it down to your families after you die. So anyway, I ran a bead on both plates, and then I just took the copper tubing, squared it up, made sure everything was square, and then just put some heat on there until it squished down and it was a nice fillet of solder, and then just let it sit and cool off. When I was done with that, I went ahead and fit it back into the frame to make sure it was going to fit. And then I fit the camera where I wanted to place it, marked the holes, and then I drilled the 2 holes for the camera. And then I hung the camera also using little tiny O-rings. I shaped the mounts so they're a nice little triangle shape. You can do that by simply cutting them, to a kind of a triangle shape after you solder the new tubing on there, the new standoff. And then you can finish it off with your Dremel tool if you got a Dremel tool or a file or whatever the heck you want to use. So here is the weight of the stock camera and also the plastic standoffs, and then here's the weight of the new camera, and the new camera mounts. Okay, so that's how I did that. I also had to mount the camera upside down. So the reason I had to do that is because Runcam, in their infinite wisdom, decided to weld the power lead all the way to the corner of the camera here. And no, they didn't do a very good job because just playing around with the leads, the thing actually came disconnected and just fell off. So I had to resolder it back on there, and then I used some orange RTF silicone sealant to kind of seal up the connections. And then I ran them up over, and then I used the stock connector that came with the old stock camera and just welded it to the new camera and shortened the leads up a bit. I also shortened the leads up for the adjustment here. This is for the little adjuster, this thing right here, so you can get into the menus and adjust. So I shortened that up as well so it wouldn't get into the props. So that's the camera, guys. Oh, and then here's the camera settings for you too. So here's some camera settings to kind of get you started. Your goggles, it may vary in the different goggles. I think I got the brightness a little too high, and I also think I got the contrast a little too high. I don't know. I haven't seen the flight videos yet, but I'm going to be throwing them up here soon. So hopefully they're good. So the next step is the VTX. So the VTX I used, it was the TBS Nano. And the thing about the VTX is that you have to unlock it. So, but I'll get to that here in a second. I had to actually remove the stock one. So how I did that is I just took a little pair of these little tiny dikes, and I just cut them right here, and I cut them right there. And I actually left a little bit of the stock pins so that I could weld to. So here's your signal wire right here. Okay, and then here's your video wire right here. The power, I went straight to power. I always go straight to power with my, anything that is high output on VTXs, just go straight to power. As long as you have a capacitor, you're fine. Do not use the BEC because you'll end up burning it up. Okay, so that's that. And here's the stock diagram as well to kind of show you the pinout here. It's real simple, but that's the only thing you're going to be really accessing other than the beeper. Oh, but well, actually, let's stick with this for a second. So the VTX, how to unlock it. Once I got everything welded together, it's a real pain in the ass because the version of Betaflight that comes with this is 4.02. I would highly suggest you go to 4.1. I didn't do it for this review. I wish I would have, because the smart audio as far as changing the power levels isn't going to work with the TBS. You need 4.1 for that. And you also need a new command set for the VTX too. It's a custom setting for this VTX, and you need to cut, copy, and paste that in your CLI. Okay, and then save it. And then you'll be able to change it, but you have to unlock it. So how to unlock it? This is just really quick, guys. There's actually videos out there on this, but I'm just going to show you real quick. So you just make sure not to grab it too tight because you'll end up with little blisters like this. Try to hold it down with something else, and then use like something wooden, like a little paintbrush or something. Don't use a metal screwdriver on that little button, because if you scrape off that button, you're screwed. So you just want to push when you fire it up with your battery, okay? You just want to hold it down and then just push it. The instructions say 3 seconds. That's wrong. It's only about a second. You're just waiting for the red light to go out. So you just push it. The red light will go out. You go let it off, and then the red light will blink once. You do it one more time, and the red light will go off, and then the red light will blink twice. That's the mode you have to be in. And then you have to hold that little button down for about 25 seconds. Now, the instructions say wait for the red light, but that's not right. You wait for the blue light. It'll start flashing for a while, and then it'll go out, and it'll become solid. At that point, you unlock the VTX. Otherwise, you're in 25 milliwatt mode, just like the stock version, just like the stock VTX. When you do that, the red light, once you let off, the red light will blink 3 times. That lets you know that you're in the power mode, okay? And it'll blink blue. So it'll go 3 times red, once blue. That's 25 milliwatts. Just click it once, and it'll go 3 times red, and then twice blue. That's 100 milliwatts. That's where I stopped, because that's all I need. If you want one more time, just click it one more time, and it goes 3 red and then 3 blue. That's 400 milliwatts, okay? When you want to save it, you just hold down the button for 3 seconds, and then the blue light will come on solid. All right? That's it. Then you're done. It's saved. That's it. If you have to do it over and over, if you have to do that procedure one more time, you're going to relock. Like, let's say you didn't get the right milliwatt, you're going to end up relocking the stupid VTX, and then you have to do it yet again. So that's the VTX, guys. How did I mount it? Well, there's not a really good way to mount it. So what I had to do is double-sided sticky tape on top of the little white connectors right here, and then just kind of sandwich it. Here's a picture of some double-sided sticky tape. I left the film on the top because I didn't want it to stick to the top plate, because I want to be able to take the top plate to service it if I need to. I just wanted to make sure that the connections did not ground to the carbon chassis, and I also wanted to make sure the antenna connector did not ground to the chassis as well. So that's what that picture is. I also put a couple of little pieces up front there, you'll see on the diagram or on the picture. on the front of the VTX, just to make sure that the leads, just added protection just in case I crash hard enough and it pushes the camera mounts into the into the ESCs. So that's what that's about. Okay, and then on the antenna, I just zip tied it back here, which is very, very secure. It's not going to get down in the props. Okay, and that's great. And it also stops my battery, my balance lead from flopping around back here as well. Okay, and then I did the same thing with the power leads. So let's go to this other side. Okay, so the other side and the beeper. Okay, so I put a really loud beeper. I got them off Amazon. It was like 20 pack for little and nothing. They are extraordinarily loud, and I'm so glad I put this on here, because if I didn't, honestly, I would have lost this thing probably about 5 times today, and that's no BS. I lost it in a lot of little bushes and stuff, and this thing is so damn small, it's very, 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 very hard to see. So I just welded it straight onto the board. Nothing more fancier than that. However, when you fire the quadcopter up with a beeper on, it's going to just sit there and go beep, and it's going to do that until you arm it, and then you hit the throttle and it'll shut the beeper off. Well, it's a real pain in the butt. So what you have to do is you have to go into beta flight, and you have to go in your CLI. The only one you want to turn on is the RX. That's it. That's all. That's the only one you want to turn on. It'll be in your list there. It'll say RX, and that way when you're using your controller, that's the only time that thing comes on. Otherwise, it's on 24/7, and it'll drive you up the frickin' wall. Okay, so and then the RX antenna. So the RX antenna I just ran up this way, and I put it on a zip tie with a shrink tube, but I also kind of folded it over. I made sure it was really, really tight to the frame and folded over. And that way when it goes upside down, it wants to go this way and not the other way and get into the props. That's pretty much about it, except for one major thing. So I'm showing you all the weights. Hopefully I show you the weights here. The stock camera, the stock VTX, and the new VTX, the stock camera with the new standoffs, and the old camera with the plastic standoffs. So hopefully I got that in here. Oh yeah, the capacitor. I have some of that Emax tape, so I just went ahead and fastened it down here so it's nice and secure. Can't get caught in sticks and stuff. And then, of course, the props, and which are extraordinarily durable, by the way. And part of it is because these motors don't have enough power to really tear them up. So anyway, the motors. So guys, this is serious, and hopefully you guys made it this far to the video. Emax, in their infinite wisdom, their brain trust, went and did something really, really stupid with these motors. So what they did is they brought out the leads from the coils. So when you coil up a motor, it goes, you start out with a start. So you're starting here, you're coiling around, you're just making an electromagnet, and then you go back down, right? Okay, so you have a start, and then you go up, and you have a finish. Okay, well, they did their starts and finish. They brought them out here just fine. Everything was great. They soldered them to this extra stiff, and I don't know why they use such stiff little wire, but they did. So the nice silicon stuff, this stuff is hugely stiff, and that's part of the problem, because what they did here is they glued it with this weird super glue stuff to the winding, but it did not stick to the winding. It didn't stick to the coating that's on the wire, and so it just broke loose. And when it broke loose, it also broke the motor leads. And that's just, and I was being gentle with everything, guys. So if you're modding this, be really careful with that. And so these motors are not available, either is this frame yet. And so what I had to do is I literally had to dig out the starts from inside the winding. It took me 6 hours to do this. Then I had to scratch off the coating, because you have to scratch the coating off. And we're talking microsurgery here. I didn't even think it was going to work. I was going to buy another motor, but then when I realized they're not available, boom, I'm like, oh, hell yeah, I got to get this done. So I had to take it up to the shop, use my big $800 Weller soldering station, because it's got micro tips, and I was able to fix this. And then I had to use our motor varnish up there, dunk it with motor varnish down here, and then put it in an oven at 170-degree temperature for about 4 hours. And that's how I ended up fixing it. So guys, be really, really careful, because I work on electric motors for a living. I highly doubt you'll be able to fix it, and you're just screwed. So that's it on that, guys. So here's some flight videos on this. I'm Oh, I hope I showed you the camera settings. I think I did. But anyway, here's the flight videos, guys. So here's the thing about this. You'll see a big dramatic difference in the VTX. The RX performance is still what you would expect from this little thing. It's not the greatest. Also, too, while we're showing you the flight videos here in the corner, I'm going to go ahead and weigh this thing. Oh, don't tell me my batteries are low. You got to be kidding me. Okay, come on. Just get in there. Okay, so here's the battery. Here's what it is. This is a 350 pack all loaded up. Okay, and a 450 is like 83 grams, if I remember correctly. So it's not that heavy. It's still within toothpick standards. So on the flight videos here, guys, this thing is still a really docile flyer. I didn't change the PIDs. I said I was going to change the PIDs, but I didn't. Because the PIDs are really good. I just changed the rates because the rates are made for a new person indoor flying on 1S. Okay, so I changed the rates so they're very, very snappy. The one thing I noticed about this quadcopter is the quadcopter is not really made for high-speed runs. It's not like my full-speed toothpick at all. This is made for beginners. It's made for close proximity and stuff like that. I mean, it will still kind of rip in a way, but it's not what you think it's going to be. The motors are just not as powerful as they probably should be. And even with the new props, which did make one heck of a difference as far as smoothness, as far as throttle control, but that doesn't mean I didn't have fun with it, though. I mean, I still had fun going between the branches and doing some loops between, or power loops and stuff like that. I still had a lot of fun with this thing, guys. This is going to be definitely my backup flyer, and honestly, I lost a prop today, and I forgot to bring extra props with me, and I kind of wish I would have, because I was really starting to have a lot of fun with this. The run cam that I chose, I thought I chose it with a 2.1 millimeter lens. No, I chose it with the 1.8. So when you're running the Fat Shark SEs, which are already 50-degree field of view, and you have a camera with 165-degree field of view, that's a lot of information for the eyeballs. So that's why you see I put the center dot there on my OSD when I flew, because I'm not used to that. I'm used to 2.1 millimeter with my goggles. So yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I think it flies great. It's very, very docile. It's very easy to control. Honestly, it was a lot of fun, but it is a beginner's quad, guys. It's not a barn burner. You're not going to be burning up anything with this. Do I believe it can, you can keep a pretty decent pace with it? Yeah, but you're going to tilt this thing to 45-degree angle, and you're going to be on that throttle from the time you take off to the time you stop, okay? Because the motors are just, they just are what they are. It's a docile flyer. I will tell you, it's an extraordinarily durable little thing, and these props are amazing. I mean, I ran this thing straight into the trees. I don't know, like straight into the trees, probably 3 or 4 times. Nothing broke, no drama, nothing. Didn't hit the camera lens, nothing like that. Didn't break a prop, didn't even bend a prop, didn't even chip a prop. So the way it's set up right here, this thing is extraordinarily durable, guys. So that's the video for today. I hope you like it. If you did, give me a thumbs up. And there you go. Join me next week, and I'll have another one. Have a good night, guys.